very good afternoon to all the participants who have joined us today for AIMS Knowledge Sharing Session. I am Dr. Sheelan Mishra and I am the moderator for today's session. Respected speaker of the day, Dr. Anand Joshi, sir, the Country Policy Advisor, International Skill Development Corporation, London. Dr. Nandagopal, sir, President AIMS. All the AIMS Executive Board members, all the regional vice presidents, chairs, vice chairs, treasurers, member secretaries of all the chapters, Executive Secretary AIMS, Venkateshwarlu sir, and Dr. Sunil Joshi. And all the participants who have joined us now, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the AIMS Knowledge Sharing Session. Before moving forward to the session, I would like to give you a bit of information about our Association of Indian Management Schools, which is a network of management institutions offering postgraduate courses and was established in August 1988 in Bangalore. It is an independent networking body for professional development of management education in India. In fact, I should say the only major body which is doing so. And we take immense pride in having 600 top-class institutions. It is one of the largest networking bodies of B schools in the world. AIMS conducts multiple activities and also supports research activities via research funds, by their support in form of sponsorship to various FDPs, in forms of resource persons, and it has become very, very prevalent from the outbreak of COVID-19 that we went online as well. Two more series of the online sessions are being organized, inspiring young leaders and knowledge sharing sessions from the current academic year. And this initiative has been taken under the leadership of our Professor Ramaswamy Nandagopal, sir, who is the President AIMS. Now, under the knowledge sharing session series, today's knowledge series focuses on the topic, redefining the role of teacher in B school. All of us coming from the teaching fraternity, we are aware that the role of a teacher has existed as long as mankind. But the definition of the role has evolved greatly over the period of time. A teacher's job 20 years ago was radically different from what we are doing today. A teacher's role has changed from just being a sage on the stage to become a facilitator of the learning processes. Especially in B schools, this role is looked to in a very, very big manner. The main job now is to set objectives and design the learning processes. Many other roles like to enable learning to happen, unlike the past where the teacher was just seen as the major source of knowledge and largely limited their role to be the source. A teacher today is more like a guide on the journey of learning, enabling the students to be the best versions of themselves. Teachers elicit a response, challenge thinking, they stretch the students' capability, provide tools to learn, and create a psychologically safe and comfortable environment for learning. So there are multiple hats which a teacher is wearing today. So there is so much to look forward to their role. But then the question is this the right role and has it been understood in the right manner and is it defined? What more is needed, especially in such times when national education policy has become a buzzword and the policy which is already getting implemented across? What is new in front of B schools to look forward to? What are those challenges which we need to overcome, which may require redefining the role of a teacher? Now, to share more on this topic with us today, we have a very renowned personality and an eminent academician and the management guru, Dr. Anand Joshi, sir, with us. Sir, I wholeheartedly welcome you to the AIMS Knowledge Series session. I will briefly introduce Dr. Anand K. Joshi, sir, to all of you. Sir has served in Indira Gandhi National Open University, National Council for Teachers Education, and All India Council for Technical Education, that is AICTE. He also has served as Pro-Chancellor, Atmiya University, Rajkot, and former Vice Chancellor, CMR University, Bangalore. He was the Dean of Wellinker B School in Bangalore and was advisor to Azim Premji Foundation. Currently, Dr. Joshi is a country policy advisor to International Skill Development Corporation, a London-based multinational learning and development organization. He's also the editor, Indian Education Review, published from London. He is also the member, VTU State Technological University Task Force on NEP 2020 implementation. He is a member of statutory board, advisory committees, selection boards of more than 15 organizations, including Government of India departments and nationalized banks. He is also the advisor education to JSW Steels, Mumbai, and Engineering Staff College of India, Hyderabad. Dr. Joshi has to his credit case study publications in Harvard Business Publishing and Richard Ivey School of Publishing. His article frequently appears in the Times of India. Several of his articles have been published in the Speaking Tree of Times of India and the Times Higher Book 2014. In the past, Sir has served as a consulting advisor on education to Kerala State Higher Education Council, Lavasa Corporation Limited, Mahindra & Mahindra Limited, etc. He has taught at reputed institutes such as ICI, ICSI, and ICWAI. He has delivered more than 200 keynote addresses at national and international seminars and conferences, including IIM Bangalore and IIM Trichy. An eminent educationist, he often shares his thoughts on education at Doordarshan Kendra, Bangalore, and other regional channels. Dr. Joshi holds postgraduate degrees in commerce, management, and law, apart from doctorate in management. May I now invite and request Dr. Anand Joshi, sir, to address all of us and share his views on redefining the role of teachers in business school. And post Sir's session, we will open for Q&A session. I would request all the participants that when you have questions, you can type in the chat box. Joshi sir, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for a nice introduction, and hope I am audible, madam.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Respected Nandagopal sir, President AIMS, and other office bearers of AIMS, of regional chapters as well, and other teachers, business education leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Ma'am, sir, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a privilege, and I feel proud to be a part of this webinar today, and particularly with reference to redefining the role of teachers in business schools. I think why this is required to redefine the teacher's role is the current disruptions that's happening in the education industry in general and management education in particular. So what are the disruptions? That's in just 5-6 points that I would like to list it out. One is on confluence of digital technology. The way the technology is getting invaded in the management education, not just the classroom, beyond the classroom and beyond the campus also. So this confluence of digital technology has ensured that the teacher has to redefine himself by integrating with technology. The second one is the economic model of these schools is getting changed now. The way we are operating 20 years, 10 years back, and today it is not there because with NEP and introduction of learning powered by technology, the invasion of learning, online learnings in the curriculum contents. So, and today, to tell you, the institutions are no longer considered as a power centers of knowledge. Sorry to make this statement. Institutions are no longer considered as a power centers of knowledge because the knowledge is percolating from different directions and students are smart enough to understand what is the right knowledge and what is the not relevant knowledge. So then obviously the role of the intellectual leadership of the B school is to redefine their economic models, or I not call it as a business model, it is a financial model which we have to redefine it. The third one is about changing market dynamics in the industry, education industry, and more so in the employment industry. At the end of the course, the way the student used to get the job profiles post MBA degrees is not today, except a few elite institutions. So that is the disruptions that is happening. And today the institutions are trying to be more relevant, not academically oriented, but knowledge oriented or industry oriented or socially oriented. I think that's the institutions are trying to be more relevant. And the day is going to come shortly wherein it is at the end of the course, the stakeholders and the students will try to understand value for the money. The fees that I pay to this X institution, whether I derive the value for the money that I pay, not just in terms of the employment, it is in terms of the knowledge learning outcomes. I think that's going to be a part of the disruptions now. The last one is, it is about disruptions is today, it is not the physical infrastructure, it is intellectual infrastructure. The content is going to be the king of the institution, and the quality of the teacher, quality of the students, and the last one is the technology. These are the four elements of intellectual infrastructure that I talk about it. It is the content, teachers, students, technology. These are going to, the physical infrastructure will take a backseat. It is required. When we talk about the ambience and amenities, it is required, but it's all about intellectual assets, emphasis on more on than physical assets. So, what are the institutional perspectives that's happening in the now in the next 5 to 10 years post NEP? Academic institutions are no longer to be called as an academic institutions or a B schools. It is they are going to be learning organizations. The learning organization concept of a typical L&D or departments of the corporates or a typical education industry, edutech industries. It is a continuous process of learning for the teachers, for the students, the alumni also, because the learning is going to be a journey of lifelong learning. So the academic institutions needs to drive a continuous learning process in the years to come. And the most important is, which is the institutional perspective, is the change in the process of admission to certifications. The way we draw this from admission to the convocation and certification, the whole process needs to be defined, redefined in terms of either a technology intervention or a process improvement, or the emphasis is on knowledge driven and process driven, not just quantitative driven. It is not the marks, it is not the percentage, it is not the percentage of students who pass. Ultimately, once they pass, what are the diversity of the knowledge that the student gets at the end of the course? The next one is what I talk about. It is about the learning organization needs to be intellectual leadership and not academic leadership. Today, the heads of the B schools need not supervise the amenities or hostels or canteen or this one. The leader, the director has to take over the role of a intellectual leader who can bring on diversity of the knowledge as defined in the NEP, and also the world over the way the world looks at the B schools. If you see the top 50 or 100 B schools in the world as per the QS ranking or Times ranking, the way they have designed their protocols of academic delivery, I think that makes the role of an intellectual leadership of a B school. They are not just the academic leadership. So, with this particular background of institutional perspective, I would like to focus now on what is the role of teachers in knowledge creation and dissemination. I think that the days of the B schools running on a borrowed knowledge are over. No longer the institutions can survive, sustain on long-term basis based on a borrowed knowledge. They have to create this one knowledge. So it is all about inter and transdisciplinary studies as is envisaged in the NEP. Today, the role of a teacher is not just teaching his own discipline. In fact, in the recruitment of the teachers in the world over, in the QS ranked world over, the process of selection is not just based on the subject of his specialization. Other than his subject, what are the other subjects he can handle to the students? What is the diversity of the knowledge that the teacher has got in the related either inter or even the transdisciplinary studies also? That is the knowledge dissemination which the teacher has to take over. The second one is about to what extent the online content can be integrated into academic delivery. We call it as a digital intelligence. It is the role of a teacher is in the digital intelligence is what are the contents which can be delivered through technology? What are the contents which can be delivered only through a teacher-student process of our conceptual, conventional mode? That's the digital intelligence in the current era. In the current era. So that's the issue with reference to the digital intelligence, and the teacher has to define it. What we call is digital Darwinism, the interface of technology with human person. So that's the era which on the role of online content. When we talk about the online content, the teacher has to take the role of being a content writer, an editor, a visual communicator, a person who can define his lectures based on the online content, because the teaching modes of online content through online content is different from teaching modes of a conventional content. So that also needs to be defined by the teacher. And when you have certain 100 credits of teaching learning process, what is the percentage you would like to teach through technology? What is the percentage that you want to teach it through convention? What is the percentage that you want to ensure the experiential learning? The current international trend of design and development of the curriculum is 1/3 should be on concepts, theories, and definitions. 1/3 should be on lab-based. They call it as a learning laboratory-based teaching learning process, learning laboratory-based or studio-based, or it is lab-based in a conventional mode. That is 30%, 1/3. The remaining 1/3 will be based on case-based teaching and case-based teaching learning process. That means out of the total content, 2/3 of the total syllabus is taught through practice-based teaching learning process. It is only 1/3, 30% is only concepts and theories. That is why today, as the learning outcome, it is not the academic learning, it is to develop the practical intelligence of the knowledge. The practical intelligence of the knowledge is more relevant to the industry than the theoretical memorization of the concepts theories. Concepts theories are important, but at the end of the day, it is how you translate it into a practical, develop the practical intelligence in the real life situations. So that's the then the next one is when we talk about the knowledge creation, it is what is the percentage to teach within the classroom, percentage to teach beyond the classroom within the campus, and the percentage to teach beyond the campus. It is better to develop the curriculum based on this model, wherein The protocols of academic delivery needs to be a part of the design development of the curriculum itself. And that is the new trend in the knowledge creation and dissemination of the. So the next is with reference to the role of a teacher. Today it is the redefinement of the teacher is on learner-centered strategic approach. Learner-centric. So ultimately, when in a corporate style we talk about the student-centric, then the education institutions more so, with the B schools also, it is student-centric. What the student wants it and how you would like to customize what X B school is doing. Let us not replicate in the Y B schools also. So that is how the customization of the teachers, customization of the academic delivery, customization of the process of academic delivery needs to be redefined by the teacher alone. That's why we call it a teacher-centric approach. In fact, when you define the teachers-centric, there are three components comes in the picture when we talk about learner-centric. Always we talk about skills. Then do you expect the teacher to have developed a better skills of just teaching or knowledge or related to it? The World Economic Forum in the last 2021 report, they say skill is temporary. Nurture human development is a statement from the World Economic Forum. Skill is temporary. Today, the technologies is changing, the processes in the industry dynamics are changing. Today, X is the skill. After 1 year or 2 years, that skill may become irrelevant also in the market. Then what do you expect? The World Economic Forum says nurture human development. It is to develop, adopting, acquiring, and disseminating the knowledge. Adopting any new knowledge that it comes just to adopt. Just simple example is today's tech leaders in the industry. You would take anyone who is a CEO or tech leaders for that matter. They never studied computer science because they're all graduated in the early 80s. They never studied computer science in their engineering. Either they studied electrical or mechanical. Then how did they become the tech leaders today? It is adapting to the new knowledge. What they are trying to understand it is they are trying to adapt to any new knowledge. The simple example is CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, studied metallurgical engineering in IIT Kharagpur. He never studied computer science there. Then how did he develop the tech leader? It is all about adapting to the new knowledge. So that happens with an analytical skills with logic and reasoning. And that makes with power of communication, you can develop any knowledge for that matter, which could be relevant in the current context. That's what the World Economic Forum refers about it. So that's why, based on this, if we want to ensure the quality based on the content, with all due respect to the regulatory bodies of AICT and other UGC, and at the same time with the accreditation bodies of NAC and NBA, they are by and large process driven. We ensure a quantitative driven quality assessment, not third party assessment of quality, what the QS ranking or Times ranking or any other international ranking is done, or a part of NIRF ranking is done based on the third party assessment. So I think it's all about what the third party talks about our institution and our products is more important than self-declared process information and getting the accreditation. It is based on self-declaration, not on the third-party assessment. The emphasis is on third-party assessment. When the third-party assessment is then again I emphasize on the quality of the teacher, the quality of the student, the quality of the content, quality of the technology that you use in the academic process. So that's the next issue which we're talking about is learner-centered strategic approach. And today, even in the last 2 years of COVID also, the most suppressed class is our teachers, unfortunately. Particularly in the private sectors, teachers are either underpaid or not paid, or they were asked to take out additional responsibility of online teaching, which they were never trained in online teaching. One fine day, you sit before the computer and start teaching. It is not the best school teachers, whether the worst were school teachers, then even the private higher education school teachers, and even the government and teachers. Because without a training, straightway they were asked to start with the online teaching, which is not so easy to make an online teaching. That too, make the student sit and understand the online teaching, because when an live teaching happens with teacher student, the teacher is a role model, and his body language, his power of communication, he connects with the students so strongly that the learning process makes it very easily. Why I am emphasizing is that even in our Manusmriti, it says, no two persons process the same information in the same way. That means out of the 60 students in the class, if a teacher talks about it, all the 60 students cannot absorb the same information in the same way. Then obviously, a few students take X subjects as his strength. A few students understand B subject better. So he cannot be master in all the subjects. Then those who are not good in certain subjects, we try to understand his average boy, his a dull boy, or so and so forth. And the student feels that teacher is not good, and the parents feel that the teacher is not good or institution is not good. But at the end of the day, the real fact is the teacher fails to understand what are the strengths of the boy to understand which subject and which not. At the same time, the parents and the institution fails to understand what are the strengths of the boy, how to leverage the strengths. Today, in our generation, the emphasis was on to improve our weaknesses and try to be successful. But today, the emphasis on is to work on our strengths and try to be successful. That is the difference between the last generation success story and the current generation success story, because we have to ensure that what are our strengths and build our career and success story based on our strength. So that's the emphasis. So what I am trying to emphasize is on, as a role of a teacher, we try to understand the students in the live context, to connect with students very strongly and ensure that even with the kind quality of the students that the B schools attracts these days. In fact, I would like to refer here one, there is in the World Bank report wherein out of the Fortune 500 companies, 38% of the Fortune 500 companies CEOs are not business managers. They have not studied MBA. They have not studied technology. They were from the social science and humanities background. Then how come those 38% of the Fortune 500 companies are successful even today? When the board was asked to a questionnaire, what made you to select people based on social science and humanities background? They were right from anthropology, sociology, economics, humanities, and related subjects. The response from this 38% of the companies, Fortune 500 companies was the people who studied social science and humanities, they are good at social and human skills. If you are good at social and human skills, you can manage a technocrat, you can manage a business manager, you can manage a finance professionals. It is all the emphasis is on human and social. This one. That is why, for even the World Economic Forum says in the last January report, today the emphasis, then earlier it was emphasis on IQ, then they shifted it to EQ. Emotional quotient is more important than the intellectual quotient because the workplace is not smooth. It has got a lot of vibrations, both good and bad. That ensures the emotional stability of the individual as a team member, as a leader. So the emphasis was on emotional quotient. And in the last World Economic Forum, the emphasis is on, in addition to IQ and EQ, they have got SQ also, social quotient. You be a part of a system of society to be successful in the business also. Because it is society is also part, a business is also part of it, has got a social perspective. That's why the process of social transformation, what we talk about in the MBA and other things, as a teacher, we should try to emphasize to connect with the students, alumni, the academic leaders, the institution leaders, leadership, this one, and to make not just the classroom teaching, and it is the beyond the classroom teaching. The next one is about knowledge collaboration with corporate R&D. I think if you see the various industry reports, Deloitte, KPMG, E&Y, our own Indian NASCOM, CII, if you see the various segment reports and skill reports of these organizations, I think there is more than materials to design, develop a syllabus for these schools. You did not go to any other what X institution is doing, Y institution is doing. If you want to create your own content in the classroom teaching or in the syllabus, I think go to these reports, and there are enough reports to be more relevant to the industry in the teaching learning, where the student will develop a knowledge integrated with the industry. I think unless your knowledge is not integrated with the industry, then the student it is what more academically oriented, academically qualified, not professionally qualified. I think that is the difference. This one. So that's about the. The next one is it's about the cross migration from faculty to the industry. The role of the teacher is with reference to, I think, go beyond the classroom, beyond the campus to understand what is happening in the real life situations in the industry to ensure that to have a practical insight in the teaching learning process. Because the practical insight is gets when a teacher goes to the industry during the vacation, gets an insight about it, not just going for 1 day or 2 days, to develop a partnership with the industry, to cross-migrate the industry person to the academics for a brief module, and the academician to go to talent management or learning and development departments or various corporate L&D centers of the corporates. That cross-migration ensures that a teacher is better in the institution. At the same time, the student gets an insight of what is happening in the industry also. So that's the redefining the role of the teacher in the knowledge content. In fact, the other issue which is quite interesting is about the learning analytics. The time has come wherein to adopt and implement the learning analytics in the B schools. The learning analytics try to emphasize what are the traits of the student when he made an entry to the B school, and what are the exit at the time of the exit. his traits at the exit level. Using the algorithms and the predictive analytics, one can make the learning analytics wherein what is the role of a teacher and a B school in the process of transformation of the student in the 2 years academic period. That means it is not just the academics, it is a social contribution or the emotional contribution or the intellectual contribution or professional contribution and so on and so forth. Why I am emphasizing on this particular process of transformation through the learning analytics? It is not just the language and communication. It is the power of communication. I mean, it is language of business communication, language of technology. Even if one is not an engineering background holder, but once you are an MBA professional, the student should have a strong technology communicate power of technology through the technological communication. And the last one is the professional communication, which should include body language, mannerism, and presentation skills. I think that makes a teacher a more industry-oriented or academic-oriented or classroom-oriented to the students of these schools to ensure that he becomes a complete person in the teaching, in the education industry. So in fact, the last one, which we talked about, it is with reference to the psychological aspects. We always, in the last 2-3 years, we talked about the vaccination and related one. So the campus needs to be a psychological safety also. We only focus on the physical safety of the students and the teachers, but the time has come to handle a psychological safety. The fear, a student cannot understand, a campus cannot be a learning environment under the threat of certain psychological disorders. Disorders, I mean, and psychological ecosystem on the negative side. So what I ensured it, the campus with a teacher in the role, he should ensure what I call a spiritual vaccination also. The spiritual vaccination that we talk about it is with reference to to bring on the behavioral traits of the individual as a student, as a professional, as a teacher, how you conduct yourself in the society, in the industry, in the profession, in your personal life. If you are not happy in your personal life, you cannot be happy in the profession also. It's as simple as that. So what is concept of spiritual and behavioral traits of the individual do matter to be into a successful one. So we try to emphasize the students in the content on the behavioral traits because the industry today talks about it. At the end of the course, it is not the percentage. Only the students are asked on the first interview after their graduation, post-graduation. They are asked, what was your percentage? Where did you study? In all the subsequent interviews, the industry will ask him what value you can bring on table to this organization, number one. Number two, they try to ensure your social and behavioral order in your previous organization or in your social media communication, how you have conducted yourself. And that's the emphasis on the success of a long sustained success of the students as well as the teachers in the years to come. So I think with this I can go on, but I'd like to, with the time limits specified by the Dr. Sheelan Madam, I would like to cut it here to ensure that we have some debate for the time available, so that I'm open for it. So thank you once again for the opportunity here to share some of my thoughts, and thanks to all one and all for the patience here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joshi sir, for such a thoughtful delivery, and it is so intellectual as well. Wonderful, wonderful thoughts that came across during your talk. I would be taking questions once they are in the chat box. I think meanwhile, I have one question. Sir, can I ask you?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
In your talk, you were mentioning about learning organization today. The institution today need to be intellectual leadership driven, and somewhere the focus has also gone on administrative leadership. But then definitely the intellectual leadership is the priority. Now, given that there are different priorities at different organization levels, how the B schools can actually transform into the intellectual driven leadership?
Ma'am, intellectual driven leadership is all about three things. One is what is the original creation of the content, knowledge, which the institution is creating, and they are not acting on the borrowed knowledge of what other institutions are doing. That is number one. Number two, the content is when it is created, who writes it? It is the teacher should write it. Madam, honestly tell me, teachers who have done their research, good research, I will, with all due respect to the teachers, do they take this research which is published to the classroom that they teach? It only goes to their CV, their CV only, teacher CV only. It will not, or it will go for the accreditation process for the institution, but it will never go to the, in majority of the cases, it never goes to the classroom teaching. A teacher who does a research, he will not take his research output to his own classroom. That is the mismatch of an intellectual leadership drive. That comes to. Third one is about how you disseminate. It is all about developing the learning content for online learning, face-to-face learning, technology learning powered by technology. What is the mode of your academic knowledge delivery? That provides it. This is on the institutional level. The outside state level, stakeholders level, how the institution is able to connect strongly with different sectors of the economy. I think that is how I call it as intellectual leadership.
Great, sir. Thank you. Thank you for those inputs, sir. I can see some questions in the chat box as well. I would like to take few of them. Now, in fact, there was one, a text related to this, that paper publications, what about them? Because most of professors just publish papers and claims promotion. Please guide. So maybe I am assuming this is this the right way to move forward, where paper publications have become more like numbers than the actual output that they should bring to the institution and to the students. So moving forward, now next question is, yes, so we have question from Dr. Sudhir Purohit, which talks about, can spirituality and professionalism go hand in hand?
In fact, to my experience, spirituality, I want to deviate it from the religion. Spirituality, I mean, it is power of concentration, power of communication, and power of positivity. And this you will get it only with a high element of insights on what we call happiness. In fact, the Harvard Business School has started one course of 4 or 6 modules 3 years back. The title is What is Happiness? And out of 800 plus students, I am told, 672 students have opted for that subjects, and students are from across the world, as you know. Why did they opt for that that optional course module? The title is What is Happiness? And the content is all about, at the end of your success, are you happy? Are you positive? Are we able to create the right positive vibrations around you with your colleagues, your subordinates, your seniors, your team members? I think for me, the spirituality is all about being happy with what you do. Is itself is a spirituality. I hope I have answered it.
Very, very, very nicely said, sir. I think it was kind of an eye opener when you say that that's a number of students opted for a course like happiness. And I have also heard in many places in India, in fact, state governments are coming forward and doing a lot of such programs like happiness engineering index,
True. True.
going to the students.
Yes, ma'am. True.
So the next question here is that there are subjects like accounting, economics, etc. How do you think experiential learning can be taught in these kind of subjects? I hope this is the meaning, if I have understood right, from Seji and Manoj B. So
see, this when we talk about this basic subjects like QT, operational research, accounting, who are quantitatively driven. Obviously, when I was talking about in my lecture, I was referred to some subject, the digital intelligence. Some subjects needs to be taught by the teacher alone, not through technology. Technology can only supplement and complement it, the teacher, but definitely it cannot substitute a teacher. And these subjects, quantitative driven subjects like accountancy, operations, duty, and so on and so forth, has to be taught by the teacher only. But when you talk about the applications about it, if you take the example of accountancy only, today, the way we taught the accountancy, the way our generation worked in accounting and finance department of corporates. Today it is not there. You have a lot of application softwares. You have got I think no one does what 20 years back we used to do it in the finance department of a large organization. Today it's all technology driven. Today, the students have to understand, the teacher have to teach those concepts and fundamentals, but more than the operational part of accounting, which the already technology is doing, the teacher has to teach analytical bent of mind in these subjects. What analytical bent of mind that you need to have to teach accountancy and to work in a finance or accounting department of a company, I think that analytical bent of mind needs to be taught with the financial technologies that we talk about it today. They should have an insight on the financial technologies also. So this is what I call about the customization of the academics. And even the evaluation process should be different from what for a principles of management or a marketing management or an accountancy or an operations. The evaluation process needs to be customized based on the subject. It cannot be generalized. I think I will clarify.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. Do we have any other question as well here? We have one question from Dr. Bhavani. Do you think academic leadership requires a lot of coaching?
Academic leadership needs
coaching.
Academic leadership
requires coaching.
No, for me. Because academic leadership, that's what I am talking about. In the learning organization, you evolve yourself every day, every month of your experience. That experiential learning of a teacher in terms of concept studies and application-oriented knowledge that you drive it is a formal training is not required. Then what is required? A practical insight into the conceptual theory that teacher teaches. A practical insight is required, and that practical insight can be driven only from I referred cross migration from the industry to academics, academics to industry. Better go and sit in the corporate for 3 months during vacations with industry institutional collaboration. The industry institutional collaboration, I think it has moved far ahead. It is not someone from a vice president coming to a B school talking about it in 2 hours. That is not the academic institutional collaborations. It is the teacher goes there and sits there for 3 months, 3 months or 1 month, try to understand the process that is involved, comes back, develops the content, delivers to the students. I think that is the process of experiential learning than a typical training. Yes, typical training may be required. I was talking about the learning analytics using the predictive analytics with algorithms. I think this may need a short-term training on how you assess use the learning analytics in teaching learning process. That may be required. But training as such, it may not be required for his own subject because it is a student who has to evolve these subjects.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for that. In fact, we have few very nice texts and inputs from Dr. S. Pratap Reddy, chairman of Dhruva Management College. Now, sir, there is one more question which I noted down when I was listening to you during your talk, where you has mentioned very nicely about the statement from World Economic Forum, where they say that skill is temporary and nurture the human development. So one
Yes.
thought which came to my mind was that we are into a 2 years MBA program where almost last few semester go into the placements internship of the students. Now, how do we organize plan that this human development can actually take a prime role? So how do we address this concept of human development? Because by the time students come to us, they're already have shaped a lot of their attitude, they themselves as a human being. What are your suggestions, sir, in that regard?
Well, in a content delivery only, when you design development content, I said 1/3 should be on concepts and series, 1/3 should be on studio based, learning laboratory based, then 1/3 should be on a case based. That means two-thirds of the total content you are going to deliver to the students on application-oriented subjects. In the application-oriented subjects, you have to teach not only the subject, the application of the subject. When you talk about the application of the subject, then again the emotional quotient and social quotient comes in the form of a project. It's in the form of a team learning. It may be form of a team learning project development or an ideation. It is all about the team only. How a student conducts himself in a team in the ideation or any particular project, that itself is an observation for the teacher to understand what are the social and behavioral traits of a student and how he can transfer them on the positive side about it when he passes out. I think these are we fail to make non-academic observations of the students as a leaders or as a teachers. Non-academic observations of the students. I think now the time has come, the teachers have to focus on this. I
think very well laid out points, sir. Non-academic observations for the student. Beautiful it is. Very nice. In fact, there is one question that kind of, motivates me to reframe it a little. So a teacher, in an institution today is playing a multiple role. They are the teacher, they are the researcher, they are the consultant, they are the trainer, they are the mentor, they are the facilitator, obviously. So, sir, how do a teacher balance, among these roles? Because everything is expected from a teacher today, and we are supposed to perform at the best of our levels. So, how do a teacher balance this?
Madam, in 1999, AICT published the role of a teacher, technical teachers in a technical institutions. B school is also a technical institution as per AICT. So they are divided into 4 categories. Teachers' role in classroom management, teachers' role in research and consultancy, teachers' role in education administration, teachers' role in extension services. So they are divided it into 4. If the student is extremely, an academician is extremely good in classroom teaching, which is a basic and fundamental, X may be good in research, may be poor in academic administration. Y may be extremely good in this academic administration, but poor in teaching. So not everybody will be good in all the four categories. A few teachers are research so much highly research driven. In extension service or industry connects or social connect, they will maybe very poor. The leader, the intellectual leader of the B school, the role is he should identify and you leverage the strength of each teacher depending on these four parameters. Number one. Secondly, if a teacher is doing a research for next 3 to 6 months, I think for one semester or one trimester, he should be taken out of the academics, taken out of academic administration, asked to focus on the research. And if he brings out an emerging knowledge as a research output, which will go to an international journal or in international patent or in a product development in any product, maybe social or industrial product development, if there will be visible contribution of research, why he should be made to teach? This is one. The other way is when we talk about the teaching load of the teacher, out of 40 hours per week, again it is divided. Why they say assistant professor should be 16 hours or associate professor 12 hours, professor 8 hours or 6 hours, whatever it is. Because as you grow, your load is more on administration and less on teaching. That is the concept. So instead of 16 hours, let him teach any teacher for that 8 hours. Let him concentrate another 8 hours on the research, which will be visible output after some time. Visible output. So I think nothing wrong in it. This balancing of the workload depending on the outcomes of the individual teachers. I think that is the art of leadership in any academic institution. I think.
Wonderful, sir. I mean, in fact, we also have one inspired quote here in the text, as you were talking, the best leaders are great teachers.
Huh?
The best leaders are great teachers. The best leaders are great teachers.
Because a hardcore research-oriented teacher may not be a good leader also. He may be a good leader of classroom teaching, may not be a good leader of the institutional leadership. Because when we talk about the institutional leadership, yes, it comes with governance, leadership, academics. 3 components comes for a leader. When we talk about the governance, the role of a governance as a leader are different from role of a governance in a classroom management. It makes a lot of difference. Yes. So I think it is all the individualistic. We have the best teacher leaders. We have the worst teacher leaders. We have come across also. He was an excellent academician, but proved to be a wrong leader. Such examples are also there in India. So it's all about the individualistic. We cannot underline any statement that all leaders are teachers are good leaders and all good leaders are good teachers. No, I think it is individualistic assessment.
That's a great input, sir. I think the way we understood about learning analytics of students, I think it's same way it's about the learning analytics of teachers as well.
Yes, learning analytics of teachers is also equally important.
Equally important. Very nice. Wonderful. So, sir, we have almost come to the closure of our session. We are nearing 4. Do we have any other question here? Sir, I don't think we have any other major question here. Meanwhile, sir, I mean, I was once again, in the beginning of your talk, when I was listening to you about redefining the model, of our, let's say, education institute, because a lot of technology intervention has happened over the last few years. So you were mentioning about that primary emphasis, the key players are going to be quality, content, teacher, student, technology. Now, may I request you to kind of how, like, can we go into any order of ranking for these? What do you think is the most important, and then can we go into that ranking of these few of the these parameters: content, teachers,
Out,
student margin?
out of the four, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. With the growing learning crisis in the institutions, learning crisis, sorry to use that word, learning crisis in the institutions, content is the theme. It is all about the content. Because even if a teacher is an average teacher, but still students are today smart enough to have their own learning models. Because student has to be a self-learner also. So content is very important. The second most is teacher. See, educational institutions particularly are human-centric institutions, not product-centric. It is human-centric. The quality of the teacher and quality of the student also. What do you mean by quality of the teacher? It is not his PhDs or it is not his academic credentials. No. As a teacher, whether he can come down to the level of the students and connects it. He has got a very high standard of academic credentials, ma'am, but ultimately, whether he is able to connect with the students. Yes. If he is not able to connect with students, then there is no point in having an excellent academic credentials. So we have come across an average teacher connects with students so well, but an eminent teacher may not be able to connect. So that's why the first one is about the content, which is content is the king in the institutions. Second one is the quality of the teacher and quality of that teaching. It has to be on both fold. Quality of the teacher and quality of the teaching. Second most important. Third one is about students. You do wonderful content. Ultimately, the student is raw material is an average raw material, then you cannot transform it as a better product. So obviously, the third is the student. The technology, ma'am, I hold the view. Whatever may be the learning technologies that we have in the market today or in the educational institutions, nobody can substitute a quality teacher with quality students. I think that is the academic institutions. The technology supports and complements the process. Definitely not substitutes. That is at the end of the day, it is and time and again we have proved it also. Whether it is not just the B schools I am referring, across the schools, school education or higher education, teacher technology cannot supplement, it only supplements and complements the teacher and the system, but definitely not substitute the system or a teacher. That's
very, very well said. I think content teacher are the primary drivers.
Yes, I think human-centric approach.
Human-centric approach. Yes.
Human-centric.
Yes, sir. So, sir, I mean, shall we close the session, or can we take one last question? As you say.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
So let's kind of wrap it up. There are a few questions here. So, sir, given that so much of right now talk is happening around NEP, NEP has already we are into the second year of implementation of NEP in our country. Karnataka has taken the front seat in driving NEP implementation across the country. Now, one side is NEP, the changes it's bringing. Other side, the way edtech industry is driving many spheres of education sector. So where do you see the future is going towards, the education sector, and how a teacher, redefines their role, ensuring that NEP is well implemented and they also be part of this edtech-driven education sector?
Madam, NEP is basically on the process of education and delivery of education, assessment of education, and award of the degrees or knowledge certification. They are concentrating on that. Whereas edutech industries as such, they are supplementing it with the technology. As I have said earlier, it is supplementing it to the technology only. But ultimately, the NAP's focus is on to give inter and transdisciplinary studies, the academic flexibility with the multiple entry, multiple exit, with the academic bank of credit, foreign invasion of the universities can come, a student can go there, finish it, a few models come back with academic bank of credit. The models of educations are going to change. The models. These days, for the MBA student joins for 2 years, he will not go anywhere. After the end of 2 years, he will avoid and get a degree. This model is going to change. Any model for that education, the models are getting changed. But the concentration of knowledge, the teacher, the delivery is going to stay with it. That's number one. In terms of the volume that we are talking about, in India, you know the way the education industry was going during the COVID and the way the decline has started now. Why? Even today, the stakeholders, the teachers, the parents, the students believe a classroom teaching or campus-based teaching learning process, not online teaching to edtech industries. I think that is the decline of the what. Yes, the UGC is supporting up to 40% of teaching can happen through online. Yes, no doubt. And they are very good to come and have their stake in the process of academic delivery. But at the same time, the current models are getting redefined based on teachers, content, campus-based learning, and intellectual leadership. That is not going to be substituted with the invasion of either education technology. Why these models are going to change? Because we can borrow top 500 world-class universities into Indian fold, with Indian fold in different form. I think that is going to that may change the way the education delivery happens in the near future. That's it.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your patient, answering all the questions. And thank you so much for your thought-provoking session today. And I'm sure all of you gained a lot, and all the participants would have definitely, taken back a lot of learning from the session today. Starting from when you spoke about institutions are no longer defined as a power centers of knowledge, to when you spoke about Manusmriti as well, that no two students are the same, similar kind of learners. And I'm sure the same is applicable on the other side of it when it comes to teachers. So it's a various combinations, permutations that institutions have to work out. It's an experiential learning, as you mentioned, which should be our way forward. That let's evolve through these kind of models. So thank you so much, sir, for your precious time for today's session, and thanks to our president Nandagopal sir for initiating this wonderful initiative of knowledge sharing session, which is bringing the latest contemporary topics to the forefront and enlightening all of us. And thanks to Team AIMS for organizing this. And thanks to each and every participant, all the professors, deans, directors, chairmen for joining us for the session and making this such a wonderful and successful session. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you all in the next session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshi sir.